Could something as simple as a conversation actually prevent a medical emergency for someone you love? Well, today we're going to dive into a really fascinating clinical trial from Professor Sunmin Lee's team that explores just that. It's all about a new way to protect older adults from medication-related harm by adding an expert touch right when it matters most.
So, here's what we've got on tap. We're going to start with a widespread but often hidden problem. Then, we'll look at the really clever solution the researchers came up with. After that, we'll see how they actually tested it. And trust me, you're not going to want to miss the results. And finally, we'll wrap it all up and see why this could be a massive game changer for patient care.
All right, let's get right into it. The core issue here isn't a specific disease, but a really risky situation that, ironically, can be caused by the very medicines that are supposed to be helping.
I bet it's a thought that's crossed your mind. You look at your parents or grandparents, and they often have this long list of prescriptions from all different doctors. Now, each pill is meant to help, but when you put them all together, well, they can create a real hidden danger.
And there's a name for this situation: polypharmacy. It's pretty simple. It just means regularly taking 5 or more different medications. And for people over 65, this isn't some rare thing. It's actually incredibly common. You could almost call it the new normal.
And look, this is way more than just an inconvenience. When you're juggling that many drugs, it seriously raises the risk of what experts call adverse drug events, or ADEs. Think of it like a chain reaction. One medicine interacts badly with another, leading to nasty side effects, super complicated schedules that are hard to stick to, and yep, more hospital visits. The cure itself can end up causing a whole new set of problems. So, what's the fix? Well, this research team didn't just highlight a problem. They actually designed a brilliant solution that gives pharmacists a totally new, proactive role in taking care of patients. The best way to think about it is like this. You'd never let a bunch of different mechanics work on your car's engine, brakes, and electrical system without ever talking to each other, right? That would be crazy. So the big idea in this study was to have a pharmacist act like a master mechanic for a patient's medicines, making sure everything is running smoothly and working together safely. So here's how they did it, step by step. First, as soon as a patient is admitted to the hospital, a clinical pharmacist sits down with them for a face-to-face interview. They get the full story on every single medication. Then, every single day, that pharmacist reviews the patient's meds, hunting for any potential issues like bad drug interactions or dosage mistakes, and if they find something, they team up with the doctor to make a change. Finally, right before the patient goes home, the pharmacist works to simplify the entire medication schedule to make it as easy as possible to follow.
But hey, a great idea is one thing. Proving it actually works is a whole other ballgame. And that's exactly why the researchers set up a super rigorous experiment called a randomized clinical trial, which is basically the gold standard in medical research.
Here's the setup. They took a bunch of patients who fit the criteria and randomly split them into 2 groups. The intervention group got this new, hands-on care from a pharmacist. Meanwhile, the control group just got the normal, standard hospital care. This setup is absolutely crucial because by comparing the 2 groups, they could see exactly what difference that pharmacist really made.
So, who were they studying? They focused on a really high-risk group, patients who were 65 or older and already taking at least 5 different medications. The whole study took place at Inha University Hospital in South Korea over about 6 months back in 2020.
And now, for the moment we've been waiting for. After all that careful planning and hard work, what did the data actually show? Well, let's just say the results were even more powerful than anyone expected. First off, let's talk about teamwork. When a pharmacist found a potential problem and suggested a change, the doctors listened. In fact, they agreed with the pharmacist's recommendations 83% of the time. That number is huge. It tells us that this system actually works in the real world. It's practical and doctors value the input. Okay. And here it is. This is the most incredible result of the whole study. The researchers followed up with patients 30 days after they went home. In the standard care group, 5 patients had a harmful drug-related event. But in the group that had the pharmacist on their team, 0. A big fat 0, not a single one. This quote from the actual study says it all. And that little p-value you see there? That's the scientific proof that this result wasn't just a fluke. It's a statistical confirmation that the difference between the 2 groups was real. In plain English, the pharmacist intervention made a massive, measurable difference. It essentially wiped out these harmful events for the patients who got the extra help.
So, what's the big picture here? Why does one study from one hospital matter so much to all of us? Well, let's zoom out and look at the lasting impact.
All right, let's break down what this really means. First, having a dedicated pharmacist is like a safety net that protects patients even after they've left the hospital. Second, it proves flat out that when pharmacists and doctors work together, patients are the ones who win. And most importantly, this isn't just a cool idea. It's a practical roadmap that hospitals could start using right now to make medicine safer for our older loved ones. And that brings us to one final, really powerful question. When we see such clear evidence that this kind of simple intervention can so dramatically improve patient safety, shouldn't this be more than just a cool experiment? Shouldn't a clinical pharmacist become the new standard of care for every single older patient?